are you the thinker of your thoughts? And if you're not, then who's thinking them? Where are they coming from? What thing that is clearly operating in the background of your conscious awareness is generating all of this mental activity? And is that thing you? What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of ShiShi Meditations. And in today's video, I actually want to switch it up a little bit and do a little exercise with you guys. So instead of ranting at you for the whole video, I'm only going to rant at you for like half the video. And then for the other half, we're going to do an exercise. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk about the idea that all of the thoughts and feelings and sensations that we experience consciously as human beings, do they actually come from us? Are we actually truly in control? Are we really the sovereign reason that these thoughts are coming up and these feelings are coming up? Or are they really just coming up from something, outside of our control, and sort of bubbling up from the depths of our mind in a way where we can't really know what's going to happen next, even just internally. And so essentially the question is, are we the thinker of our thoughts? Are we the thinker of our thoughts, or are we the observer of our thoughts? Or are we both? Are those exclusive categories? And, the reason why I think this question has pretty tremendous implications on our general well-being and mental health is because if you truly believe that you are the thinker of your thoughts, if you truly believe that you're responsible for every thought that you have, then in my experience, that's a lot of pressure to be putting on yourself to, think only the right thoughts, think only good, empowering thoughts, and to not have negative thoughts and to not have destructive thoughts. And if you attach your sense of identity and your sense of personal worth as a human to the thoughts that you're having, then it can be very easy to begin to think that there's something wrong with you the moment you start having negative thoughts. And it can be very easy to identify with and attach to those thoughts, those negative thoughts, because you start to believe that they're coming from you. So, if you're having a negative thought or a disempowering thought or a harmful thought to yourself or someone else, and you're identified with the idea that you are the thinker of those thoughts, then, the natural conclusion to draw from that is that you are those things. You are a harmful person. You are a disempowered person. You are a victimized person. Whereas, on the other hand, if you're somebody who is able to watch your thoughts, and this is a very common metaphor that's used in meditation, but essentially to watch your thoughts like cars driving by on a highway, and you being on the side of the road rather than being in the car or being the highway, but rather just being an observer on the side of the road and watching your thoughts go by, saying, oh, there's happiness. Oh, there goes pain. There goes sadness. There goes lust. There goes anger. There goes envy. There goes greed. Rather than trying to get into the happiness car and run away from the pain car, but just be in one place in stillness, watching all those cars go by, then you begin to gain some freedom and some sovereignty over yourself and some separation from those thoughts. And that can be a really psychologically empowering thing that helps you just remain more objective and equanimous in your situations, because rather than being the thinker of the thoughts, you're now the observer. You're now the person who has the ability to consciously choose to respond to thoughts rather than unconsciously reacting to thoughts because you're so identified with them. And if all of that sounds a little bit theoretical, now I want to kind of share with you guys a quick exercise. It's only going to take a couple minutes that hopefully will directly prove this to you. And the cool thing about this exercise is, oftentimes meditation, when you try it, it can seem a little bit nebulous. It can seem a little confusing. You're not really sure if you're doing it right or what you're necessarily even supposed to be doing. But this exercise is really simple, and it's something that I think can offer immediate evidence to the idea, or at least some encouragement of the idea that you are not the thinker of your thoughts. So without further ado, I would invite everybody who's made it this far in the video to join me in closing your eyes. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is completely stop thinking right now. Just stop all thought at all levels of subtlety. Just completely empty and clear your mind totally and completely. Now, if you're like me, and I would venture to say most people on the earth, that is pretty much damn near impossible. You know, you might be able to do it for like a second, but before you know it, if you're really paying attention, you're having some level of thought, you know, at some level of subtlety in your mind, you know, at some level of consciousness. And I think that that is quite a tremendous piece of evidence. You can open your eyes, by the way, now. That was literally the exercise. But you can try that as many times as you want, and you can do it for longer, obviously. But even in that short amount of whatever 10, 15 seconds that we did that for, that is a really strong piece of evidence that you are not the thinker of your thoughts. Because how could you be the thinker of your thoughts if you can't even control, if you don't even have the ability to stop thinking them? So if you're not able to stop thinking, if you're not able to stop thinking at will, or if you're not able to stop thinking a certain thought at will, or direct your mind to one thought over the other at any given point, no matter what, then clearly those thoughts are bubbling out of something that is not your conscious identity. And, you know, from a scientific, neuroscientific level, I mean, essentially it's electrical activity in your brain that's causing these thoughts to occur. But what is driving that electrical activity? You know, if you think about your autonomic nervous system, you're not consciously telling your heart to beat. You're not consciously telling yourself to inhale and exhale unless you're doing some sort of like breath work practice. But for the most part, majority of the day, you know, when your mind is occupied by other things, those things are happening in the background. And in the same way, your mental chatter is happening in the background as well. And I think that the realization that you actually don't have control over your thoughts to a degree, you know, at first might seem a little bit scary, but it's actually at the same time quite liberating, because you start to gain some separation from the thoughts that you otherwise would be so identified with. And you start to realize that, okay, all of this is happening in my body as a part of biological systems and processes in my nervous system, but my conscious ability to observe that actually transcends all of those things that are happening. So there is some sort of separation. There's a space between the thought and your ability to observe it. And the more that you can recognize and honor that space, the more you can live more intentionally and consciously and choose which thoughts to subscribe to and which thoughts to just let pass through your awareness and not be and not give power to, essentially. And I think thoughts, you know, are the most immediate way to do this, because we tend to be very good at recognizing thoughts, you know, because there's a certain level of semantic language that makes it easier for us to think, oh, I just had this thought, I just had that thought. But the next step up from that is emotions. And, you know, emotional awareness and emotional intelligence can be a lot more difficult and tricky, because emotions by nature are just more complicated. But that's essentially the same thing that you can do with emotions, is to start looking at them and saying, I'm feeling, you know, sensations that I'm labeling right now as fear, or I'm labeling right now as anxiety, or I'm labeling right now as, excuse me, as anger. And to start to be able to say, okay, those things are all going on inside me to some level beyond my control. But what is in my control, what is always in my control, you know, sometimes it's easier to recognize than others, is the ability to consciously respond to the thoughts and emotions that are occurring inside you, and decide which ones to subscribe to and which ones to let pass through your awareness. So I hope that exercise was helpful, and I would encourage you guys to do that more often and really just explore, are you the thinker of your thoughts? And if you're not, then who's thinking them? Where are they coming from? What thing that is clearly operating in the background of your conscious awareness is generating all of this mental activity? And is that thing you? Is that thing really you? Or is it just a part of your biology? Is it just a part of your nervous system and your mental processes? And if it's not you, then what is you? And, that's a question to ponder for a lifetime, in my opinion. So I hope this video was helpful, or at the very least, intriguing. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.